We've been talking a lot about what rookies will be the best producers for fantasy football in 2023, but we haven't discussed a whole lot of what their long-term outlook is. So what rookies are going to give you the best production for the longest time? Yo, Headliner Nation, I got several members of the YouTube channel here that are over in Discord to hop into a rookie mock draft with me so we could take a look at who are the top rookies long term. And we set up the scoring as if this were a rookie draft for a Dynasty league, 12 teams, half PPR scoring, super flex. And before we discuss all of that, make sure that you use that link down in the description below to pre-order your 2023 Fantasy Headliners Draft Guide. I may be biased, but I already thought that our draft guide was the best bang for your buck fantasy football product on the market today. But we went through and we revamped a lot of the things that we do, and we've made it even better for 2023. And guess what? It's the same price as last year. Well over 200 player profiles, tier rankings, cheat sheets, and some of the best exclusive content that you can't find anywhere in the industry, like my dynamic running back rating. So yo, pause the video or wait till the end, use the link in the description below, and pre-order your draft guide now so when we release it on July 1st, you'll have it in hand. All right, here we go. Mike kicked us off with the 1.01, and he went Anthony Richardson. And honestly, I'm not surprised, because if I had the 101 in any of my rookie drafts, I'm also going Anthony Richardson. Everybody is just defaulting to Bijan Robinson right now. And while I understand that, because Bijan is clearly capable of giving you 101 value, Anthony Richardson has more long-term upside than what Bijan does. Yes, he might be a little riskier, but let's say you hit on Anthony Richardson and he is the guy that myself and a lot of other people think that he can be for the Colts. You're going to have him for 10 years. Whereas we've seen it with the best running backs in the league. You might get an absolute stud in Bijan, but maybe you only get him for the next 5 years. Give me a guy that can do it all at the quarterback position, and Anthony Richardson, who could be a top 5 quarterback in the next 2 to 3 years. I was slotted into the 1.02 because I thought Bijan would go first and I was going to take Anthony Richardson, but instead I go with Bijan. And even though CJ Stroud and Bryce Young would deserve to go here, I'm going to go with the short-term upside of Bijan Robinson. Outside of Anthony Richardson, he has the highest ceiling in this draft class. Darth goes with Bryce Young at number 3. In a super flex league, I'm not surprised about this because he might be set up for a little bit quicker return than what CJ Stroud may be. And even though Stroud still has a little bit more upside, sometimes you just play it a little bit safer with this top pick. Jahmyr Gibbs to Rory at number 4, and Rory is a Lions fan, so that doesn't surprise me that he went with Gibbs here. And Jahmyr Gibbs is being comped to guys like Alvin Kamara and Christian McCaffrey, and in this Lions offense, he's going to be utilized as such. So outside of Bijan Robinson, if you're looking for a high upside play, Jahmyr Gibbs is that guy in this class. Sam K is going with CJ Stroud at number 5, and maybe this year will be a little bit tougher because of lack of weapons, but I believe that the Houston Texans will get CJ Stroud what he needs, and he'll be just fine in the next couple of years. Terry Crews goes the long-term plan here with Jackson Smith and Jigba, because with Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf, he's just not going to be a consistent fantasy producer, but he was my 1.01 wide receiver in this class. And if they move on from Tyler Lockett here anytime soon, then he will be a guy that will be absolutely peppered with targets and will become a high upside play in any half or full PPR league. Last 6 picks of the first round, Zay Flowers kicks it off, and with Zay Flowers, this is another guy that might not give a great return right away, but long-term in that Ravens offense, I like it, especially when OBJ probably at the end of his 1-year contract doesn't resign. We saw Adam Thielen produce great numbers right next to Justin Jefferson and even Stephon Diggs at times, so Jordan Addison should be set up in the perfect situation to be able to do the same. DeBoss going with Quentin Johnston, and this is another guy that might not give you great return on your value in 2023, but it is almost a given at this point that the Chargers will likely move on from either Mike Williams or Keenan Allen, or maybe even both at the end of the season. If that happens, then Quentin Johnson is going to step into a wide receiver 1 or wide receiver 2 role with one of the best young quarterbacks in the league. My man Briz goes with Dalton Kincaid at the end of the first round, and quite honestly, I'm surprised he fell this far because a lot of people are comparing him to Travis Kelce and the way that he is utilized in the Chiefs offense. If that happens, that is great. Rookie tight ends typically don't do that. But if Dalton Kincaid can be a lot closer to Travis Kelce than Kyle Pitts in the next 2 years, then this will be a steal in the draft. Optio goes with Michael Mayer, and this is a guy that kind of fell down my draft board a little bit prior to the draft because some of his athleticism scores were not what I was hoping that they would be. But is Jimmy Garoppolo going to make him the number 2 target by Devontae Adams? That's going to be the key to unlocking Michael Mayer. Steven wraps up the end of the first round and goes with Will Levis. Now, Will Levis in a Dynasty league probably ends up going a little bit higher a majority of the time because people are looking for those quarterbacks, and you have to assume in the next year or two, Will Levis will be the starter for the Tennessee Titans. All right, let's flip the turn and head to the first pick of the second round, where one of my favorite prospects, Jonathan Mingo, kicks things off to Steven. Jonathan Mingo is finding himself in a position where he could end up winning a wide receiver 1 or 2 role in the next couple of years. And prior to the draft, people were calling him a diet version of A.J. Brown. Terrace Marshall Jr. really hasn't turned out what Carolina had hoped to be. So they're looking for a big, strong presence on the outside, and Mingo could give them that. Devin Achane ends up going with the second pick of the second round, and this is a guy in the Miami backfield, could end up winning a pretty significant role this year. And if that happens, then this is not only an immediate return, but over the next 2 to 3 years, could be a guy that maybe doesn't have RB1 upside, but in half PPR leagues like we have set up here, he could give you some pretty good flex options on a week where your starters just aren't there for you. Rashee Rice in Kansas City has lots of potential, but we don't know how the wide receivers will play out in 2023. So for me, Rashee Rice is definitely a sit and wait type of project player that hopefully in the next 2 to 3 years gives you this return. Z-Man killed it with the wide receivers, getting Jordan Addison to start and then going with Josh Downs, who I firmly believe will be a really good slot receiver for Anthony Richardson in Indianapolis. With your bigger wide receiver 1, Michael Pittman on one side, and your field stretcher, Alex Pierce on the other side, and then of course, Jonathan Taylor on the backfield, Josh Downs is likely going to have a lot of room to operate over the middle. Now, Downs is going to be tied to Anthony Richardson. If Anthony Richardson becomes the quarterback I think he is, Josh Downs is going to become the wide receiver that gives you a great return in the end of the second round. The question about Jalen Hyatt is whether or not he is a wide receiver 1 or is he a complimentary wide receiver? Because if he's not the wide receiver 1, the New York Giants are going to need more help outside to really let Hyatt unlock himself. If Hyatt will not be able to win against the bigger and stronger cornerbacks in the league, that is going to cause some big inconsistencies for him. Last 6 picks of the draft here, Luke Musgrave going here in the middle of the second round, has an opportunity in Green Bay to really make an impact right away, but that is going to depend on the development of Jordan Love. There's 2 pathways for Kendre Miller's success. For the short term in 2023, it's going to be about Alvin Kamara and whether or not he faces a suspension. For long term though, it's about Jamal Williams and how long he actually ends up being in New Orleans. Rory doubled down on his Lions fandom and ended up going with Matt LaPorta in the second round. Now, I like Matt LaPorta, but there is going to be a lot of weapons to spread the ball around too. So while I believe that he is a guy that at the end of a season, when you look at his overall points, could end up being a guy that gave you a lot of fantasy points, those could come in some inconsistent spurts. Tank Bigsby goes to Darth at the end of the second round, and Tank isn't that bad of a running back. but he's behind one of my favorite running backs in Travis Etienne. So long term, Tank is a guy that you just have to hold and really see what happens with the development of Travis Etienne over the next couple of years. I could not believe it, but at the end of the second round, I got Roschon Johnson to fall to me. And while he does have potential to help in 2023, a lot of it is going to depend on Dante Foreman and Khalil Herbert and whether or not they are healthy. So long term for Roschon Johnson, I'm actually holding on to him as much as possible. possible, because over the next 2 years, he could become a guy that's similar to like Derrick Henry at the start of his career, where you look at him and say, this guy's the best running back in the field. He might not get all the touches right away, but once Foreman and Herbert are potentially gone, Roschon Johnson takes over as the starter, and now you've got a guy that can absolutely help your fantasy team, especially if Justin Fields becomes a terrific quarterback. And at the end of the second round, Mike takes a shot on Zach Evans, gonna hold him on his roster and see if he can become a guy that can help him in the next couple of years. Yo, Headliner Nation, if you're into Dynasty leagues, then this is going to be a really helpful tool to help you decide where you may be drafting rookies prior to your season starting. So hit that like button for me before you head out of here. Leave a comment down below. Let me know if there's a certain rookie that you're kind of trying to stash in your Dynasty leagues because you think he could be a big help in a couple of years. And if you're new here, subscribe to the channel and check out what we've got for you the rest of the offseason and for a huge 2023 season. Peace out, stay safe and healthy, and I'll catch y'all on the next episode of the Fantasy Headliners.